talk of the week, Richard Branson blasting himself into the stratosphere and beyond. There's a lot of publicity around it. He was on, the Colbert late night show the other day, sort of promoting it all. There's two aspects that I wanted to cover with this. And obviously Neil deGrasse Tyson had his little bit about, did he actually go into space? And he seemed to think probably not. And I think this was tying into what we were discussing the other week about where does space start? And it would seem that he was kind of just sort of coming out of the edge of potentially where it could be. But Tyson was going into, could he see the curvature of the Earth? Did he actually go anywhere? All that sort of stuff. I don't think it takes away from the achievement, I guess. And it was a good publicity stunt, if you can call it that, to advertise space travel. I guess if it was going to be one of those billionaires, he was probably the best one to do it, given the flamboyant nature of the man and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, well, there's two things to this, and the Kármán line is thought to be the edge of space at 100 k's, which sounds pretty arbitrary anyway. I've always wondered if the US goes for the 50-mile, 80k limit, because that allows a whole lot of their early rocket research in the 60s to qualify as space travel. So,
yeah,
and they set some of the speed records as well at that height. But for me, no one on Branson's flight was wearing a spacesuit, and for me, you don't go into space unless you wear a spacesuit. So. I don't buy it.
But what about this other adjunct story that came out a bit later that, there was this whole thing where he supposedly rode his bike to the launch site. He rode in, suited up, and then went out. And it turned out that the whole video had been pre-recorded ahead of time. In the misinformation world that we're living in, I'm sure the conspiracy theorists were wondering if he actually had gone into space at all. Whether did he fake it? I thought that was quite an odd little addition to the whole saga, I guess.
Well, I thought it was very brave of him to go. I mean, he said, let's not be cynical. He didn't go a week early just to beat Bezos, but certainly looks that way.
It was convenient that he was able to, yeah.
Yeah, well, that's right. So, I mean, let's see now how many flights they actually get going. I mean, for Virgin Galactic to be successful, obviously they need to, dominate, at least in the next few years, space tourism. And look, whether or not you think it's actually space, I guess he'll be there first, and he'll be ferrying people up there. I don't know, like I said, I think a few weeks back when we were speaking, I know the balloon ride's a lot lower, only gets to about 20k, I think, or 30k, but for me that sounds like more of an adventure.
I mean, I think that's probably a good way to look at it. Regardless, it would still be quite an interesting sort of trip to take. If it wasn't,
money, I'd rather have 6 hours, 6 hours rather than 15 minutes.
Yeah, and the cost would have to come down a bit as well. I would assume.